In a studio that's in a basement comes the epic story of how two friends changed the future of the movie podcast game forever. The reviews are in. Boys Life magazine gives the High Side podcast 4.5 acorns. The Daily Bugle says, these guys are super legit. And Pope Francis declares the podcast as life-affirming. From the kid who tried to get smart with David Spade and got fucking old.
You're still out. You're still back.
And the guy who can name all four Baldwin brothers.
Alec, William, Daniel, and the baby boy, Stephen.
Live from the studio of his parents' basement. The Have You Seen It podcast.
Welcome back to the Have You Seen It podcast. My name is Mason Knight, and sitting across from me is the one, the only Cash Kraus.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes,
here
you
and
are.
still kicking.
Barely.
Against the wishes of some people.
Well, you know what? To hell with those people.
Yeah, some people give me get a lot of death threats.
You do, unfortunately.
A lot
of death threats.
Yeah.
It's a scary time.
We're not even very popular or famous.
We're not, but we still
so
get
it's
them.
weird for me to get so many.
Random email, hope you both die.
Yeah.
Hey, two idiots, both die.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough.
Pretty mean for sure.
Pretty
but let's get into some good stuff that'll make us happy
Yes,
instead of death threats. Death
absolutely.
threats aren't happy.
They're not the best
happy,
thing
but,
ever.
This is our Throwback Theater edition.
It is.
Right? Where
Yes.
we go back, review some old shit, some good shit.
Of course.
And we're doing something special for the remaining of our Throwback Theater for the rest of the summer.
Yep.
Because there's no summer blockbusters coming out. This is summer blockbuster season. Where's our Fast and the Furious? Where's our 5 superhero films?
I don't know, but we deserve it.
Where's our Mission Impossible?
We didn't get it.
Where's Tom at?
I don't know.
Is Tom okay? Someone
Where's-
check him out.
Where's the Christopher Nolan Tenet film?
Yes. Yeah, where's our 1% of good films that come out during the summer?
It's nowhere. Nowhere to be found.
Nowhere. So we are going to go back instead and watch or review, record, do whatever we got to do. Some of the greatest summer blockbusters of all time.
Yes.
And that is the Indiana Jones franchise. We're going to do all of them.
We're gonna do
even
all
the
4.
one that people don't really mention. The
one that shall not be named.
Let's not name it right now.
Until we have
'Cause
to
we're
name
gonna-
it for that episode.
There's going to be a full podcast where we have to talk about it constantly.
Yeah.
So we won't name it right now, but we are going to get through all 4 Indiana Jones.
Absolutely.
Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, that other one. We're going to hit them all.
We will.
But I'm excited for it.
As am I.
We
This
both
is
love
a lot of
Indiana
fun.
Jones.
Oh, of course.
And mostly everyone in the world has seen Indiana Jones. So this will be pretty laid back, I got a feeling.
Yeah. We'll just talk about a few things. I mean,
Again, we're not going to bring anything new to the
Yeah,
table when
no,
it
we
comes
will
to
not
Indiana
be.
Jones. No new fan theories or anything like that. But I think it's safe to say we both love these films.
right. And it's something too, like that's what I love about what we're doing with this podcast now is, when we started this podcast, we'd only do brand new films. But now since we're kind of, getting into it and doing deep dives of just movies in general, it's nice to have the Throwback Theater to kind of just hang out on the podcast and talk about some old film that has been really iconic and has shown through the test of time, I mean, this film was made in 1981 and people still talk about Indiana Jones. Still to this day.
Yeah, for sure.
And the 5th one is still in development.
Yeah, we can talk about that
we'll
later
talk
if
about
we
that
need
later.
to.
Yeah. We have 3 more episodes after this to talk about that.
Exactly,
one,
yeah. So we will get into that later. But it's very alive and still thriving today. But that goes and shows you how good it was when it came out.
Yep.
For a film to be so relevant and to remain relevant for fucking 30, 40 years after it came out. And it still looks... I watch this film, and every time I watch it, it feels like I'm watching it for the first time, man. Mm-hmm. And this is a film I've probably seen 30 times.
I've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark more times than I can count.
Yeah, it's a film that if I see it on TV, doesn't matter where it's at, last 3 minutes, fucking an hour in, I'll flip it on. You might as well.
And this film shocked me, but in the best way when I was a child. Like
as a kid,
my
it scared the
God.
hell out of me.
And again, if this is obviously a spoiler podcast, this film was made in 1981, but the specific scene I'm talking about, which is the iconic
this we
one.
can get into spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. Yeah, we can talk about spoilers. The face melting and head exploding scene.
And still looks so good in
does.
my eyes, man. Practical effects, and I've seen how that's done a million times, and it looks so good. They just they layered it up with like fucking what is it? Not latex, but like the stuff wax.
Wax, yeah.
Just wax, and they slowly just melted it with a hair dryer or industrial heater, and just shot in reverse. It looks so good, and just had a skull under all that. But
and
still scares the hell out of me.
It does. And I was looking up, trivia and facts about this. And the head explosion scene initially didn't have the fire explosion. It had just blood and just explosion. But because of that specific scene, the film would have to have been rated R for gory content. So that's when they put the fireball effect in it to make it less gruesome, to get that PG-13
Which is
rating.
not any less gruesome.
It's not. I mean, when a head explodes, it's going to explode.
It's not any less gruesome at all. That scene is still scary, and if you showed it to a 5-year-old, it would still scare the hell out of him. Which is probably around the time I saw it for the first time.
Exactly.
But that scene always scares me. But the scene that really scares me is the scene when they're in the crypt, Indy and what's her name?
Marion.
Mary, yeah. Well, I cannot remember her name. But when they're in the crypt, when they in the snake, when the Nazis throw them in, and they like break through the wall, and she breaks in, and she's in like the room with all the skeletons and shit, and all the bodies are falling on her.
Yeah.
That scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
Oh, dude. And you watch it now, it's kind of hokey and funny because you can,
It's-
all the
yeah.
dead bodies are like screaming at her too. It's like,
But still, they're all falling the most dramatic, and they're just shit's falling in her face.
you got like just this nasty flesh all over you.
Yeah,
Just like,
and it already scares the shit out of me. For some reason, that was such a fear of mine growing up, was being locked in a tomb and just having to sit there and just rot away. But that scene always scared. Not as much as the snakes, but if you love snakes, you'll love this film because there is a lot of
snakes. And if we know one thing about Indiana Jones,
why
not a fan
does
of
it always
snakes.
have to be
It always
snakes?
has to.
It's always snakes.
David Tomblin, which was the first assistant director on this film, got bit by a python while shooting this and just calmly asked someone, just shake the snake off.
Well, you got to think pythons, they don't have that big of teeth, they constrict you.
They do,
So,
but
a
still
little
very
python,
scary to get bit by a snake. But this man was a champ.
Yeah, but there's
about it.
thousands of snakes on set. For that to be the only bite, they got out of there pretty lucky.
Yeah, they did.
Something crazy I learned was they used, I guess this is a thing where you can have legless lizards. And they use that for most of the snake. Have you ever seen a legless?
I have never seen a legless lizard.
It's not a snake. It's not a fucking lizard. It's something in between, and it's horrifying.
Yeah, that sounds like something you would make in like a lab or something, and like
Legless lizard just sounds like a snake, but it's weird. They have eyelids for one. Snakes don't have eyelids, and they have like weird protruding ears, like lizards do. And snakes don't have ears.
Really?
But they're non-lethals. But I guess that's what they mostly use for these snake scenes, was these non-lethal. But yeah, I learned something. A legless lizard.
Huh.
I thought all snakes were legless lizards.
That's what I thought too. You're teaching me something new. I got to be honest.
They're horrifying, man. You can pull a picture of one. They are horrifying. But I'd rather go on with the snakes.
Yeah,
Don't give
I
me
think
some
so.
in-between half-breed, some just mistake by God. He just didn't know what he was doing up there. He was caught in between. But yeah, legless lizards. Didn't know. Something else I need to be scared of.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Add that to the list of things. But yeah, great practical effects throughout the entire thing. Obviously, it was before CGI, but these practical effects still hold up in my eyes. The scene with the ghost flying out of the ark still looks amazing to me. And still, I mean, even though it's old, it's got an element that's even scarier now that it looks really raw. It's freaky to me.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's almost found footage at this point.
It is. And with all the fireballs, too, going into the Nazi soldiers, when they open the ark.
Yeah, and them just
And they're like, whoa, and then like the fire like coming out of their eyes. It really looked great for 1981.
Oh, it's so satisfying too. If you're gonna kill Nazis, do it in a
most brutal way.
Yeah, exactly,
Yep,
man.
exactly. Give them the death they deserve.
Giving their face melted off. And Spielberg, man, obviously he's Jewish. Jewish. You know, his family fucking died in the country. You know, he was fucking happy as hell making those
to melt
scenes.
some Nazis, absolutely.
That's the way you got to do it, man. And those
do.
Nazis, they're great fucking movie Nazis in this film too, man. Great movie Nazis. Make you, I mean, they're like the character of the worst Nazis, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But perfect. Yeah, I love it. I love the practical effects. Look so good. The squibs all look great. When someone gets shot, it looks like they're really getting shot. You know, because it's actual explosion happening in their chest because of the squibs. But it looks great, man. The blood. And today, this film would be rated R. 100%.
Yeah.
No way you're making... There's way too much blood and way too much death. People are dying constantly for this to be PG-13. I think it'd be rated R for sure. There's not cussing or anything, but... And not anyone fucking or anything like that, but it'd be rated R.
I do want to talk about one of the most famous stories while shooting this. And I love this story because it's just so improvisational. Like, just, it's awesome. The famous scene in which Indy shoots, you remember the swordman that comes out, the big, scary
that's the most...
black swordman?
Yeah.
Well, originally, he was just supposed to whoosh, take the whip and knock the sword out of the guy's hand. But everyone got food poisoning on set that day. Except Steven Spielberg, because he likes to eat SpaghettiOs on set. And I guess he brought a few cans of SpaghettiOs.
It's because he's famously immature.
Yeah.
So he refused to eat the dinner that anyone else ate.
Right.
And he imported all his canned foods from London. Yeah. And everyone else got sick. But yeah, that's a super famous story. And
they got food
the
poisoning.
scene is perfect.
Yeah. And then so on the fly, they tried to shoot it 4 times. Harrison Ford couldn't do it. He was too sick. So he suggested to Steven Spielberg, he goes, hey, how about I just shoot him?
And everyone's so miserable. They're like,
yeah.
fuck, yeah.
But Steven loved the idea right away and jumped right on it. And it's one of the most iconic scenes in this film. And it's hilarious. I can watch that scene 30 times and I still laugh.
Oh, yeah.
I still laugh. It's so funny because it's the thing you least expect. You know, you expect Indiana Jones, the hero, to just defeat this like super swordsman, and no, instead he just pulls out a gun and shoots him.
Well, that's
so Indy.
That's what's so likable about the character. Yeah. You know, he's not. It was portrayed, originally he was going to be kind of this James Bond, real suave, but then he became this real, like, blue collar, down to earth,
exactly,
architect or not architect, but whatever it's called that they do. But yeah, it's that's what's so likable about him is because he's just like you and me. He does everything the easy way. It's never the most complicated way or anything like that. It's always the easiest way. And it's always the dumbest way because he's not a genius at all.
No, he is not.
You never get the feeling that this guy is some super soldier or spy. It's just a regular schmo just yucking it up and getting into some wild scenarios.
Well, and think about it. The Indiana Jones needed help at every single turn. He's not, as you said, he's not a super soldier. He's not.
He's an anti-hero by all means. He's an anti-hero for sure.
It's very like... And what's likable about the character is also the thing that you could watch this at any time and go, oh my gosh, he has the potential to die at any moment.
Yeah.
Because he's not superhuman. And it just goes to the likability of Indiana Jones so much. And Harrison Ford, he was born to play Indy. Unquestionably, and that is why it's probably his favorite role of all time.
He would agree with you
would,
just
absolutely.
as much as anyone else that he was, and at times he may even think he really is Indiana Jones.
You know what?
He's getting a little hazy in his old age, and it's blurring the lines, man. But,
it is.
Yeah, he is the perfect cast for it. He's got great charisma on screen. Off screen, he's like talking to a plank of wood. But on screen, man,
don't talk to me.
Yeah, it's I like Indiana Jones.
Not a fan of interviews.
I want to fly a plane. Like, what are you talking about, or Harrison? We don't know what you're saying. You got to speak into the mic. We can't hear you. But yeah, it's just crazy. He's like a 180. He has such great charisma and playing like Han Solo and stuff. But then you talk to him off screen, and it's just oh my god, this guy is miserable. He's so boring. But it's just, that's always funny to me. But yeah, the charisma, man. Indiana Jones, he's so likable. In my opinion, I like him even more than Han Solo. I think that character is much more likable. Mm-hmm. Where Han Solo, he's really cocky.
Yeah, he is.
Indiana Jones, he's cocky, but I think he knows that he's got no idea what's going on half the time.
No, he doesn't. He's just as confused.
He's
as
just really
else.
lucky.
He's super lucky.
Really lucky. Yeah. He's got hero's luck. With the whole, we can talk about it, but the intro, the most famous intro, it's been fucking parodied a billion times. But the intro with a young Doc Ock, Alfred Molina, man. Dr. Octavius himself.
That is right. He was a little one of the henchmen that helped him. Didn't last too long.
No. But an early Alfred Molina, he's a powerhouse actor, but such a small role for him to be.
Well, we all got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But screws our young Indy out of the statue, man.
Yep.
Give me the whip. Give me the statue. Don't give up the whip.
Never give up the whip.
And that whip, man, it's better than a gun in most fucking... You think most of the time, don't bring a whip to a gunfight? Not when you're fucking Indy, man. I love at one point when guys are chasing him, and he just brings the whip and just starts whipping the shit out of them. They're just
no.
They just totally back off. Because being whipped sucks.
Oh, yeah.
I'd rather get punched in the face many times than a whip.
Oh, my God. The sting.
And it's a bull whip.
Yeah, exactly.
It cuts. It cuts deep. Ugh. Dangerous weapon. But it made every kid in the 80s and from then on want to have a whip. I wanted a whip so hard, and it turns out they're really hard to use. You can whip yourself most of the time, and it hurts extremely bad. Yeah. They're hard to use.
I've actually had a little bit of training with a whip.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get the timing. But when you get the timing, you feel like a stud.
Oh, yeah.
Because after a few of them, I was able to like really get the whip, and I was like, oh, yeah, I feel like Indiana Jones.
Yeah, but you can get the bounce back and it hit the back of your hand or some shit.
That shit hurts.
It hurt. Or the back of your leg.
I hit myself.
When you're going like this, because I've just, everyone's probably handled a bullwhip at some point because of Indiana Jones. Right. You see it on the table, you got to pick it up. You got to do a couple of these.
Just out of pure curiosity.
Whip yourself in the back of the leg a couple of times and then just throw it down in anger. But
well, it is a weapon that you learn your lesson very fast.
Yeah, and you think you can like whip branches and shit, but it doesn't even ever come into play in real life. No. You never need to
whip a branch
through a gap or anything like that. It doesn't happen. The gun is much more useful, but he hardly uses the gun. But again, that makes him so likable. He's an everyday's man. Yeah, he's not shooting people all the time. That's too easy.
It is.
Only shoot him when you got the shits and you gotta cut the scene. That's funny. It is funny that Spielberg jumped on it. He's like, "Fuck yeah, let's get out of here, man." And this film was made for $20 million. Crazy, it was made for $20 million in 1981. But that was like. That was a real tight budget, even for 1981. Spielberg going into it, he even said that they can only shoot scenes like 4 to 5 times, but he said it just ended up adding to the film. Like it made you feel like you're watching, because Indiana Jones is based on like the serials from the 30s and 40s, adventure films that you go see in theaters. Yep. And it feels like that. It feels like it's set in the 50s, obviously. But it does.
In 36.
Oh, in the 30s, even earlier. But it feels like you're watching a really early era film because of that rawness, and because you could tell they only had so many takes. And that's because they're shooting on film. You literally only had so much film. Yeah. So you couldn't do. But again, it adds to it where they knew they could only do 4. And you can see some of the films do feel raw. Like it's not perfect choreographed or anything. Especially the violent scenes where they're fighting and they're grabbing each other and they're kind of falling all over the place. But it just adds. It makes it feel real, man. It does. It's nice when things aren't perfectly choreographed.
Yeah. And you talked about the budget being $20 million. The box office success of this film is astounding. It made $389.9 million in the box office. One of the biggest successes. I mean, it's of that time period.
Well, it's a film that I bring up all the time when people want to make the argument that that Hollywood is against action films and how action films can never win an Oscar and can never be nominated. That comes up every year with Jason Statham saying they need to have their own Oscars for action films because it's rigged. Indiana Jones is 100% an action film, and it is also 100% a great story too. It never sacrifices story for action. It's action from nonstop, man.
It is.
And so many awesome action sequences too, and there's so many of them.
And that's something that's iconic about this film is the pacing.
Yeah,
the pacing is literally perfect in this film. Like, it's so good. It goes from one story to the next, to the next, to the next, where there's never any dead time where you're just like, what is going on here?
Yeah, and like, the story...
Why do we have this?
And it's so engaging, too. You know, you want to know about the arc and everything, that mysterious arc, and you want to know why the Nazis want it and everything. And you're learning along with Indy, you know, what it is and how dangerous it is. Because at first, you know, Indiana Jones, it's a cool character arc where he doesn't believe in anything supernatural. Yeah. You know, he says that right at the start, and, you know, by episode or by movie 4, you know, he's be coming into contact with aliens.
Yeah,
it's such a jump.
okay.
It's such a jump.
Is.
Yeah. But I love that. I love that in these early films where he was, again, he played the role of the audience where he didn't, he was super superstitious about everything. You know, he didn't believe that there was these demons or anything that were going to fly out. Yeah. He just thought it was an old ark. Because what is the ark supposed to have the 10 Commandments in it, right?
Yes. Yeah. And then like in Old Testament, anytime, and even if there's one story in specific in the Bible where the priest dropped the ark and one guy just tried to, because you were not supposed to ever touch the ark no matter what. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it fell and the guy was just trying to hold it up and he touched it and it was dead instantly.
Yeah.
After he touched it.
His face didn't melt, though. I wish
No, it
that
did
was in
not.
the Bible.
Yeah, that might have been a little bit of...
Be fucking metal as hell.
Yeah, it would have been...
Then old Josiah's face melted. What the hell? What a twist. Yeah.
He was just helping. I know. Poor Josiah.
I could have lifted myself. What did I do? His blood's on your hands now. But
just some old 80-year-old priest.
Please help me.
This shit is so heavy.
Sure, I'll give you a hand. Just grab. What do you got here? Laundry? Just think it's nothing. Melts his entire body and blows up his head. Shoots lightning over, killing everyone within 40 yards.
It's not the way you want to go out.
Absolutely not.
No.
And that's the thing you want the U.S. government to have. You want them to have it locked away.
I know. I love how they add that at the end. Like, you know, they're giving the congratulations to Indy and the thank yous, and the American government has it on a. Did you notice at the end they allude to
box,
they allude to Area 51? Is where they put the ark. Yeah.
Well, they go there in fucking in the movie that should not be named that. Again, that movie did everything that Indiana Jones never did, where it never showed you too much or anything. But that film just said, heavy-handed, we're going to beat you over the head with everything Indiana Jones. But we don't need to get into it yet.
No, we did not.
But,
I love the story and concept of this film. George Lucas typically would go on vacations before his film would hit theaters, or even during.
It's got the cutest...
story.
It's the cutest story of how it was developed. Yeah, go on.
Well, so in 1977, a little indie film came out called A Star Wars: A New Hope. Mm-hmm. Maybe you heard of it, maybe you haven't. But this film came out, and George Lucas was so nervous and so scared about the release of this film, and because there were just so many problems with the first one. Luckily, you know, you get someone like John Williams to make an incredible score. It can do a lot for the film.
Then you get John Williams to do this score as well.
You do as well, which
and the score
on the money.
The score is as iconic as the movie.
It is.
You know that fucking do. You know the score immediately, but.
And George Lucas and Steven Spielberg were friends, and they actually met up in Hawaii as George Lucas was on vacation. And you know, Steven Spielberg really wanted to make a James Bond film. That is something he really wanted to do. He wanted to direct a James Bond film.
Because Spielberg was coming off Close Encounters of the Third Kind, so he was also on vacation, like rap. Yeah.
And George Lucas goes, well, I got one better for you. He goes, how about a guy named Indiana Jones, and he's searching for the Raiders of the Lost Ark, or the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, you got me.
Well, he just explained, that he was. He said, I got a character better than James Bond. And then Spielberg said, yeah, it was pretty much James Bond without the hardware. Yeah, it was just a guy with a whip and a fucking. He didn't have some guy in his ear. But you missed the cutest part. Not Spielberg, but George Lucas was building a sandcastle. They were building a sandcastle together. And then they had the idea. It was so cute. Building a sandcastle.
I really wish we could have taken a picture of that together. Those two building a sandcastle.
So these two billionaires.
Right. At this point, now they are. Yeah. Geez.
They were even wealthy back then. But these two guys these two geniuses just building a sandcastle together.
It's so wild too, because this isn't the only this is the heyday of Steven Spielberg, when idea after idea and just hit after hit after
and
hit.
Everything felt so fresh.
Everything did. Yeah. And as he's shooting this, during shooting breaks on the location of this very film, him and Melissa Matheson wrote a little screenplay. I don't know if you've heard of it, called E.T., the Extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
They were writing this film on shooting breaks for Raiders of the Lost Ark.
What did E.T. come out in 81?
82.
82.
Raiders of the Lost Ark came out in 81.
Yes, yeah. So, man. That's vintage Spielberg, man,
It
and
is.
vintage George Lucas, and just like this crazy era of Hollywood where this young group of directors from like UCLA and shit were making these fucking phenomenal films, just one after the other, man. What a time. And it was kind of this new wave of Hollywood. Super cool. They made so many good films in that era alone, man.
They did.
So many inventive, cool, because they're all helping each other too, you know? It'd be like George Lucas would help out Spielberg, then Spielberg would help out Lucas, and be like this super tight, close-knit community of filmmakers just like dropping in and out of each other's films. And that's why those films are so good, man. Because they had so many people working on them. But yeah, an awesome time for film for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, just randomly, hey Spielberg, finish that sandcastle and get over here. I got an idea for a new James Bond.
Like, really?
Finish the moat. We gotta get it. Just it's probably the most elaborate sandcastle of all time. Had traps and stuff, and had like a full backstory to it of like who owned the castle and stuff. Because they're
Probably
just
had
big
a moat.
nerds. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I love that story. It's so cute. Those two guys.
This was the only Indiana Jones film in the entire franchise to be nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars.
Again, it got nominated for 8 Oscar nominations. Incredible. Again, you can't say action films can't win Oscars, man, because this is the perfect action film. Yeah, 8 nominations. Yeah. I mean, when a film goes and does that well at the box office, it's hard not to.
It is.
But yeah, nominations for like practical effects and best score and stuff like that, that's a no-brainer.
It is.
Because, I mean, it's John Williams, George Lucas, Spielberg, all coming together.
All the bigs, you know?
All coming together to make a little tiny globe-trotting action film that no one knew anything about, but just blew up. Then a prequel followed it, and then Sean Connery got involved at one point.
He did. And that, I cannot wait to review that one too.
I know.
The first 3, the trilogy, and that's what I'm going to call it, because I refuse to call it anything else. The trilogy, man, all 3 movies are going to be a lot of fun, and all uniquely different too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Temple of Doom, we'll get to that later, but that's just completely something totally different.
Well, Temple of Doom follows the George Lucas path of trilogies, where the second one's always dark and edgy. He goes through some mood swing through like the middle of his trilogy where like, and everyone hates, and that's the worst reviewed one is Temple of Doom.
I don't know
it's my
why,
favorite
because,
it's my favorite because it's so dark and so. It's the one that's the most. If it's gonna be rated R, it would be Temple of Doom.
Oh, unquestionably.
Pulling a heart out of a guy's chest, and Spielberg did not want to do it. Spielberg said he did not want to make a dark Indiana Jones, but George Lucas was at. Spielberg also didn't want to make a trilogy. But George Lucas lied to Spielberg, said he had 3 films already written. And Spielberg was like, oh, I'll do it if you already got the work. He's like, yeah, the work's done. Oh, that's like, the films are done. And he had nothing written.
That's hilarious.
And he had absolutely. And then Spielberg, it became so popular, Spielberg had to continue doing them. But yeah, Spielberg at the time, you know, of course, a young director doesn't want to be tied down to a trilogy. You know, you got so many ideas cooking, you want to do different things. But he had to do it. He had no choice.
Yeah. So for 1981, or 1982 technically, I guess, for the Academy Awards, I wanted to bring up the 8 nominations that you had just brought up earlier. It was nominated Best Picture, Best Director, Best Cinematography, and Best Music Original Score. These are the 4 categories that it won at the Oscars. Best Art Direction, Set Decoration, Best Sound, Best Film Editing, and Best Effects/Visual Effects.
Yeah.
Those were the 4 that
Best effects, I'm sure it fucking won by a mile. But yeah, best sound for sure. Best editing, yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Art design, absolutely, man. These sets are amazing.
Sets are beautiful, especially for the time.
Yeah, and it feels like you're in. It feels like you're in
Cairo, Egypt,
1930s Cairo, Egypt, or the Himalayas when they first go and meet or find Marion, you know, in the bar, which is such an awesome scene.
I love the bar scene.
She's drinking the guy under the fucking table, like. I love all that, man. Yeah, but yeah, the sets are they're so good. It's so real. It just makes you feel like you're there. It makes you feel like you're in the 30s.
Yep.
Imagine that Spielberg is able to make a good film. I just can't believe it. It blows my mind.
Yeah, I know, right?
That guy's so talented.
Yeah, he's just not very good at all.
It's weird that we're even talking about it. Like we have to compliment him.
We have to. Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of my favorites.
I totally agree with you.
Of all time, for sure. If I was going to make a top 10 list, it'd make a good argument to be that top 10 on that top 10 of all time.
Of all time?
It's just so iconic, man.
It is.
The giant boulder, and it makes a great Disneyland ride, too, if you haven't been to Disneyland lately.
Yeah, you got to check out that indie ride before they tear it down.
Are they tearing it down?
No.
Oh.
But, you know, I want to scare people in.
I don't know why you even say that.
Well, when
You make it
Universal
sound
Studios,
like you knew they were tearing it down.
when Universal Studios took out Back to the Future, I will never forgive them for that.
Well, they had to take out Back to the Future. They had to make the way for the Mummy.
But still, the Mummy.
And the problem with Back to the Future was the time they ended was 2015. So that ride did not make sense for 2015.
Good
Anything
point.
post 2015, it really didn't. But I did
puts
love
things in good perspective.
Yeah, I did love the Back to the Future ride, though. It was very
I will always
cool.
miss it. I really wish
Very
I could have
iconic.
bought one of those DeLoreans.
You know that you could go on VR. They have the ride that you can go like
Oh, that's
put on
cool.
the VR set
Yeah.
and
you can
and
still
go through the
ride it.
ride. Yeah, do exactly what it was.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it's supposed to be
awesome.
pretty cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because I love. They used to have an old ET ride too. That
They did. I
took
loved
apart.
ET.
Yeah, I
ET
loved
was
ET,
fun.
yeah.
It was simple. You know, you were on the bike the whole time.
Yeah, but he said your
fun.
name at one point.
He
Remember
would always
that?
say, Mason.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah,
like,
I remember he
"What?"
said Montana, my brother, and we were fucking freak. We thought he was here. I said, call the government. You got to get his ass on ice.
They're an extraterrestrial.
Dissect his ass. Yeah, we got to kill him. We got to get rid of
Are
him.
there more like him around?
We got to be safe here. Because remember in ET, they do. They kill him. They kill him. Our government doesn't have soft hands when it comes to dealing with these guys.
No, they do not. It's shoot first, ask questions later.
Because you can always dissect shit and learn about it.
You can.
Dead.
When it's dead.
Yeah, it's a lot easier, actually. It's an easier process. But yeah, well, anything else to say about Indiana Jones?
I mean, you know, what more needs to be said about a
Yeah.
film, about this film?
I love it, and it was fun. I look forward to doing the rest of them
Same.
as well. Yeah. But yeah, if you haven't seen Indiana Jones, I don't know. I can't even imagine you're a real person.
No, you're not. You can't be unless you're like under the age of like 11.
Yeah.
Like, how could you have not seen it?
But even then, I feel like you got to go out of your way.
you do.
To not even, I would do anything to be able to go back and watch it for the first time, though. Yeah. And I would go and see it in theaters if they ever re-release it too. I've never gotten the chance to see it on the big screen.
I know that would be awesome. They really should do a.
I saw the
re-release for
newest
Indiana
one
Jones.
on the big screen.
As did I. As did I.
I'm like, this is the one to go to.
This is the best one to see on the big.
If you're gonna go see one on the big screen, make sure you see this one for sure. But,
Oh man.
all right.
Alrighty. Well, that is our review, our talk session of Raiders of the Lost Ark. If you guys like what you're seeing here and you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to like this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification. We drop videos on our YouTube channel every single day. If you guys are listening in audio format, Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Stitcher, social media pages, Twitter, Seen It Podcast. Cash is on Twitter. That's just Cash. Instagram, Have You Seen It? Facebook, Have You Seen It Podcast. Thank you so much for watching and listening. My name is Mason Knight. That is Cash Krause. And until next time.
Bye.